Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, wherever you are in our international gathering community. This is a gathering of step guides and or people who are interested in participating in that conversation. My name is Herb. I'm an alcoholic. And I invite you to join me in this attitude adjustment. A prayer for open mind, open heart, a gift, even though we're willing. I've never been able to actually achieve it, but I've been given that gift periodically, regularly. Please join me. God, please set aside everything that I think I know about myself, my unmanageability, my spiritual path in you, for an open mind and a new experience with myself, my unmanageability, my spiritual path, and especially you. Please join me in the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Welcome, welcome, welcome to everybody who is here. And the purpose of this is not a teaching moment from my standpoint, but it's a teaching opportunity for all of us in that, or learning even. We share our questions, concerns, experiences, comments about sponsorship, certainly. The main focus is about Step Guide. I make a distinction because that's my personal experience. I've had two sponsors, one for 28 years and one currently for the last 10. And I believe in sponsorship, local sponsorship, actually, where it can be done effectively. Lots of circumstances that perhaps people need more long distance. No comment on that. But to have an accountability person used regularly or infrequently, but at least somebody who is a companion on the spiritual path, the path of walking life. It's not to the exclusion of other people. As many of you know, I have a sponsor. I've had step guides. I've had therapists. I have an ongoing relationship with the spiritual director over 30 years. I see probably once a quarter. And other friends, companions, two daughters who are 30 years each in their own 12-step program. And the key here is our effort to have some transparency for ourselves, that rigorous honesty theme that Bill emphasizes so deliberately in the chapter, no coincidence here, on how it works. He spends the first 2/3 of that first page, 58, talking about honesty and rigorous honesty. Accountability. I think it's the single most important moving part of all of the moving parts of the program. Well, lots of people want to help other people. That would be the organic, inevitable outcome of the 12 steps worked effectively. And I'm saying that very clearly and precisely. The litmus test of an effective first 9 steps is that you have an organic interest in helping. Not necessarily helping other people with the steps, not necessarily helping with people in the service structure of your 12-step fellowship, but helping. As it is your gift for your competence. All right, so if you have questions and concerns or some insight and or some experience or some challenges that you'd like to bring to this group, it's not about me being the answer man. It's about me facilitating a dialogue about our knowledge and our experience. Ken, please.
Good morning, Herb. Thank you. the question I had going in, I don't know, my screen is changing all around. Anyway, the question I had going in has, you somewhat helped me with it already. But the question is, as a step guide, well, both as a step guide and a sponsor, I find myself in a teaching mode often, and I started to worry about it. And I started to say, no, I'm just supposed to be an accountability person. I'm just supposed to share my own experience. But somehow in the sharing of my experience, I end up teaching. And I think, I mean, I try to follow your model, realizing that I can't do what you do. I haven't had your experience. And
don't try to be Herb, try to be Ken.
That's what I'm doing. But
Yeah.
somehow there's sometimes a feeling like I'm just doing too much teaching and not allowing them to participate more. That I'm using.
What is your what are the words you use to define your role in that particular relationship? Are you a sponsor or a step guide or what?
Let's just stay with step guide. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're not this. See, it's really important to get clear as to what the role is with the person. And if you're not clear or they're not clear, that needs to be very clear up front. I'm very clear with some people that I'm not their sponsor. I'm a step guide and I'm a project manager, and that they need to take some issues to their sponsor. On the other hand, the ideal, as you've heard me express it many times, is for the sponsor to be the step guide. And that's the ideal relationship. But a person needs to be very clear as to what the role is.
Well, that also sort of identifies another problem in terms of sponsoring. I find that a good deal of my sponsoring lately has become being a step guide. I mean,
oh, that's fine. You know, but the question here then is, are you doing enough listening?
Right. Yeah. And I'm trying to find that balance, and sometimes I think I talk too much.
No, it's a wonderful consciousness. It's a really good consciousness. And if in doubt, talk to the person about the dance that you're doing with the person. Is the balance? The question might be is the balance in our conversations what you're looking for in terms of effective help in navigating the path? I find that giving assignments, asking questions, and listening is much more effective than teaching.
Yeah.
Because people can sit there and they can listen to you and pretend that that's an effective relationship, but they're not really hearing you. They're tolerating you.
Right. That I sometimes get concerned about that.
Yeah, or they're intimidated by you, and so they will just sort of co-sign as if it's so. It's just be sensitive to it. Ask questions if you have doubt, or if you have doubt, really pause and listen and check out your own motives. What's my motive here? Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I have found the questions so much more important. Like if I begin to teach, like you're saying, and obviously we have knowledge and experience, and it will be helpful if they get it. Then I'll pause and say, did you hear what I said? And would you like to share back with me what you heard? Periodically.
That's a wonderful question. Yes, thank you.
Well, It intimidates them, but it keeps them awake.
Yeah, I sometimes try to get at that, but I never thought of just stating it quite that directly. That's
Yeah,
it's beautiful. Thank you.
yeah. Well, it makes it more of a dialogue then, and it also models for them how they can then approach it to help somebody else.
Right, and it also helps me to see that they are
Correct.
at least what they're getting,
Oh,
because I don't know.
absolutely. I think that's really my point, is to see what did they hear and what did they understand about what they heard. Yeah.
Right.
And more often than not, they didn't hear it or they didn't understand it.
Well, I'm gonna be curious to find out.
Yeah, good. And once again, when your motive is you truly want to help, then you'll stay conscious. You'll stay conscious of the dialogue and the process. Yeah. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you, Herb.
You bet. Andy, please.
Hi, Herb. Hello, everyone. So what I heard a few months ago, Herb, is I believe you gave me a homework assignment. You told me to go learn to surf. And I don't know whether you remember that conversation.
I don't.
But I finally did. I'm in Puerto Rico right now. I was at a place called Rincon, which is on the northwest corner of the island. And I learned many different aspects and about the dynamic and nature of living a more natural, but still somewhat controlled life, principled life, let's call it that. One of the times I couldn't get up off the board because I was holding on to it so tightly that you have to let go to a certain degree, right? I mean, we've all heard that.
Well, I don't know anything about surfing, but yes, it sounds right.
Wow. Yeah. Despite where you live. Wow. Okay. But bottom line is God is out there with us, and we need to align with the power of the waves. We need to let go to a certain degree and flow with it. Nice. We also need to trust, have some balance and stability for which we are responsible, but at the same time, accept that little bit of fluidity because it's gonna be okay. And those are some of the lessons that I learned in the process.
Well, it's I don't actually like the phrase "it's going to be okay." I don't like it at all, but it is going to be what it is.
Yes. One of my friends likes to say, "You get what you get." Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I'm continuing on this path. As I go on and grow deeper in my faith and my principled living, alcohol and other things become less of an issue. I don't want to sound like I'm bigger than that. That's because we all know what happens when we try to do that. However, I've had a sponsee along the way. I've gone through 3 iterations of the program which you share with us, and I'm very, very grateful. I definitely believe that this could have happened decades ago, and who knows? I mean, I needed to live to that certain point in my life where it became uncomfortable enough that I needed to change something, or I needed to allow the change to happen. So those are lessons that I've learned. I'm continuing on the path. I'm 55. Still got a lot to share, a lot to live, and continue. Yeah, just I appreciate this kind of, you said train the trainer, and I understand the essence of what you're sharing with us. I understand the accountability, the responsibility, the consequential nature of our actions, and being aware is probably the first step.
It is absolutely the first step. That's correct.
And I'm working on it. Although alcohol doesn't affect my mind as much anymore. I mean, remember the pickle cucumber thing, but but emotions do still get in there sometimes. One of my favorite prayers besides the set aside is still, God, please get into my head before I do, because yeah. Anyway.
Well, as you may be aware, the stage I'm in now, in terms of my teaching, is about emotional sobriety, because Bill said in 1958, it's the next frontier. It didn't really catch any traction at that point, but over the last 10 years, Dr. Berger and I have been doing quite a bit of work there. And so I see that as capturing what you're saying is, this is the next phase of our development, or the second or third stage, whatever, however you categorize it. And that's that balance that you're talking about. That's the consciousness that you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And yeah, I'm fully on board. I've dialed in a few times during your discussions with Dr. Berger. And yeah, my initial sponsor for this program, he, not to share too much detail, but I've learned from him in many different ways. And one of the big things is exploring that new frontier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just, bottom line, thank you. I'm on the path. And I found also that it's kind of a dynamic. I still, I'm a certified yoga instructor, and I've gone deep in the breathing techniques, yogic breathing and such. And I'm volunteering in that aspect. Also, I'm helping others bring more peace to the world by finding it themselves. And then we can connect with one another. Relationship is what one of my I don't want to call him a sponsor, but definitely someone I've learned a lot from. Yeah, it's how we relate with one another, not to, but with one another, based on that emotional sobriety, respect, love, all those things, that we can hopefully build a more peaceful world with one another.
Yeah. And so that's the benefit of you being here now and sharing with us. I hope everybody's hearing it as a witness to the development of a commitment to this way of life, and you're defining it by your own competencies and your own connection to joy. And you've been brave about exploring some out of the box experiences.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
No. Do you know the name Tommy Rosen?
Of course.
Oh, well, I don't ever assume. And because he's
communication. Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. And of course, he's a international yoga person like yourself. So wonderful.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anya, thank you.
Yeah, I've actually got I've got a couple of questions, because I'm sponsoring a number of people in 2 fellowships, and what happens, the first question is about the crossover from one fellowship to another. For example, I have some sponsees in NA and others in FA. And so what sort of, they know that I'm in both fellowships, and there's sometimes a bit of a crossover, and I just feel that's right.
There's never a crossover. All right, there's never a crossover in terms of the fellowship, because the fellowship is about addiction, and the addictions are different. First half of the first step. The addiction of NA is drugs. The addiction of FA is food. So there's never a crossover there. The addiction is unique. But where the crossover does happen, in the sense of crossover, the way you're using it, I think, is in the second half of the first step, unmanageability, where you get into the step process, and then the steps are all the same after that. That's the distinction I make. But so tell me about what your concern is, what you're struggling with, and what you actually mean by crossover.
Okay. What I mean is, since I've been in FA, the my NA sponsees have actually wanted to try FA as well because they've had both addictions.
All right.
And what I have done is suggested that they get an FA sponsor,
Yes.
that
Good.
I cannot be their FA sponsor,
Good.
that I'm
Excellent. I agree. Yep.
yeah, I'm sponsoring them in NA, but they seem to still try to drag me into the conversation about FA and
Well,
how
if
to
you
do
are,
FA.
well, but if you are in FA, you actively are in FA and NA, why couldn't you sponsor somebody who has the same dual problem? Why couldn't you sponsor them? I mean, it's okay for you to say because I don't have time and I don't want to. Those are legitimate reasons.
Sure.
But there's nothing intrinsic in it that would prevent you from being a double winner sponsor.
Okay, but what I'm thinking is that I think in regards to my sponsees, I really would like them to actually take responsibility for their addiction, in that sense of, you know,
Perfect.
I've been their sponsees in NA for a long time. Now they want to do FA. I recommend that they get an FA sponsor, because I like to keep
them to have a new experience with the new focus.
Totally.
Fabulous. I 100%, yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's one thing. The other thing is I'm having difficulties with one of my sponsors in NA because basically I try to keep to the point in our conversations. However, this one sponsee just keeps getting into the story, and I try to get out of the story.
Yeah. Are they doing steps?
Well, they're doing steps, but very slowly. And this is a question that I have.
Well, as long as they're doing the steps, slowly or not, that's the real point. But go ahead. You said you had some other question.
Well, it's I don't know. You know, when you're talking to somebody, so what's happened? This sponsee is in NA. She's trying to do FA because she's got food addiction issues. And yesterday we had a very long conversation about, you know, what's happening to her, because she's had a lot of issues and she's not feeling very well, and she's gone into the food and all of that. And then, you know, when I mentioned about what she could do about it, like her options, she goes, I know
food.
Yeah, in regards
Why
to
are you
food,
doing that?
or any of it.
If you're not her FA sponsor, why do you get into that?
Because I keep getting dragged into it.
No. You see, you're blaming them. No, it's something about you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's your problem, not their problem. They want help.
Yeah, because I don't want to do it.
Well, no, but you clearly do want to do it because you're doing it.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just not able to say no. I'm terrible.
No, you are able to say no. You are able to say no. You're not willing to say no.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to be a hard ass here.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm just, I just feel very confused in that situation.
Here's what I do. When somebody is working steps with me and they call me with a life problem, and I'm their sponsor. But they're working steps with me, and they call me with a life problem. I will listen for a couple minutes to see if in fact something needs to be listened to. Otherwise, I will say, so how are you doing on your step 4 resentment inventory? And they'll tell me, or they'll start stumbling, and I'll say, well, call me when you've done some work, and I'll hang up. I don't continue a conversation that's not productive in the focus. I'm not a therapist, and I don't want to enable anybody.
Okay.
So you're enabling them to not go to their sponsor. You have information and you have experience, but that's not your role here, as you've defined it. So you
Yeah,
need
yeah.
to keep in mind what your roles are as you've defined them, and be very clear about the communication. No, honey, I really understand what you're doing, but talk to your sponsor. Or, hey, how are you doing on step 8 or something along that line?
Okay.
Yeah, it's mhm.
And just one last thing, what do you say when the sponsor says, I know, I know, I know, I know, but they're not doing it? So,
So hang on. Call me when you've done some work. Bam.
okay.
Yeah. And tell them, don't do it without telling them.
Mm,
You explain to them what the process is going to be. If I find that you're not doing the work, but you're explaining something about your life, I'm going to hang up on you. Yeah, don't surprise them. Give them an advance warning. This is how we're going to dance. You're either going to do the work and we'll talk, or you're not going to do the work and we won't talk.
okay.
Can you do that?
I'll give it a go.
Yeah, but that's the right answer, isn't it? We'll see.
All right. Thank you.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
No, that's wonderful. I mean, first of all, the dialogue may have helped you, but I know it helped a lot of people who have to sort this out for themselves. So thank you so much for raising the issue.
Good morning, Herb. I'm going to try to frame this question in a way that is answerable, but
Just
okay,
comfortable.
don't worry about it.
Slow. Yeah.
I've been doing a lot on emotional sobriety myself. I've listened to your podcast with Alan, and I've been looking at Bill's letter, and there's a part of his letter where he goes into the solution. First, he describes the problem, then he talks about, prayer and grace, and he came to look at the St. Francis prayer. Now, I understand the St. Francis prayer, and I'm just curious if you could tell me what drew him to that as the solution to his, he could have gone to a wealth of resources, but he chose that. And he did say he did a lot of prayer. And I realized the turnaround, like the St. Francis prayer is almost counterintuitive. We're selfish, self-centered, and it's saying give rather than receive, understand. So what do you think was the juice in that prayer for him that really turned him around to find his solution? Because we talk about a lot of ways to get to emotional sobriety. So I'm just curious about your perspective on it.
Well, it's not a question I've been asked before, but my intuitive answer is, and I don't know whether it's true, but this is my suspicion. Bill wrote the big book in 1939. He was 4.5 years sober. He didn't have education, quite frankly, that allowed him to write that book. He didn't have a normal liberal arts college education. He had studied law and got a law degree, but that was and he had a wonderful high school, private high school experience, but he didn't have any broad knowledge of religion, philosophy, comparative anything. So he writes the book in 1939, and that's a story for another day. It does not contain any reference to the St. Francis prayer, right? But it does, on page 62, confirm that selfishness, self-centeredness is our problem. Now, thank you. I'm doing this for the very first time. I'm kind of looking at his history. 1939, he writes the big book. 1940, he meets and engages Father Ed Dowling, a Jesuit priest, as his spiritual director. 1940. With him, he studied to be a Catholic. Yeah, studied to be a Catholic for many years. And then Father Dowling knew that he had his own limitations, so he passed him on to a bishop called Father Bishop Sheen. All right. And Sheen led him all the way to the altar of becoming a Catholic. And I don't know exactly the dates, but Bill decided not to go forward because it could influence the perception of the Big Book and Alcoholics Anonymous if he established an official public relationship with a particular religion. So he didn't continue. But in 1951, he writes the 12 and 12 with all this education, with the Catholic tradition background. He clearly has been exposed to the St. Francis prayer because in step 11 in the 12 and 12, he uses the St. Francis prayer as a particular model for meditation. And it encapsulates the turning from self-centeredness to other-centeredness. I just made it up, but I think that's a really good story. What do you think?
I like it a lot. And I thought it was interesting that that prayer was not in the Big Book, but it is in the 12 and 12.
Yep.
And
as well as in the 12 and 12, he mentions emotional sobriety many times.
Yeah. It's very interesting that he used that to solve his depression. And the healing circuit was, don't you think, I mean, if you want to talk a little bit more about that, about he gets the idea, if I'm going to be okay, my job is to take the love that God's giving me and give it away. It's like that's the contract.
Yeah. Well, that, I think you may have heard me unpack that very phrase from the letter, the healing circuit, because it fascinated me. It's such a powerful image, and yet what did he really mean by that?
Yeah.
I wrote a reflection on it. I'll make sure that Rainey gets that reflection and sends it out to the people, because I think it's the heart of the matter. And as you say, the solution to the emotional sobriety, as he was understanding it at that point. He wrote his letter, he wrote the initial letter in 1956. See, the dates are very proximate. And then in 1958, they published it in the Grapevine.
Yeah, and just to give a context, the reason I'm bringing it up is because I've got sponsees that are interested in this thing of emotional sobriety, right, and moving beyond just, I said, the food doesn't treat the problem.
Correct.
In other words, abstinence doesn't treat the problem. That's what I meant. We're still untreated.
No, but I'm going to underline it. Abstinence and sobriety does not treat the problem. It's the first step in dealing with the problem, but the problem is unmanageability.
Right. And that's why they're so interested in how do I, navigate this problem. And then I lead them to Bill's letter and some other things. So that was very helpful, the history there. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm glad you asked it. It may or may not be the actual history, but it's a good enough explanation to get started in understanding that directional development of Bill. I mean, his process was definitely over years. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Nancy, please.
Hi, Herb. Hi, everybody. This is my first time at this meeting. I'm very interested in moving on to sharing what I've learned in your workshops. And so I figured this would be a good place to start. And I wanted to say something to Andy. Andy has said several times in his sharing that he's on the path. And I would say to you, Andy, you are holding a lantern on the path. And that's what is scaring me about being a step guide, because I know that I can hold the lantern. I know that but that seems kind of pretentious and arrogant to say that I I care enough about this program to stand on the path and hold the lantern.
Yeah.
But that's how, as Andy was talking, that's how I was seeing it. And so I look at all these faces. There are 40 some people, and I see lantern holders.
Well, maybe you do, or maybe let's up the light a little bit. Maybe what you see are lanterns.
Ah,
Ah,
yeah.
I'm not holding a lantern. I am a lantern.
And absolutely, Herb, that's, you have spoken to me several times about the power of the energy that we have available to us. And I'm 76 years old, and I know that that power is available, and it just scares me to be the light.
Yeah.
I find
Well, because you're not the light.
I'm the lantern. I'm holding the light.
Yes, I'm holding the light. Yes, I'm transmitting the light. Yes. I am the lantern. Gandhi said it in a different way. Be the change that you
Yeah.
want to affect. And I think Augustine said it, wherever you are, preach the good news. If you have to, use words.
Which I believe strongly in that.
See, you are the message. Now that puts a heavy responsibility on us.
Yes. And yeah, it does.
But the responsibility is, okay, I'll be the best that I can be, knowing that I can't be the best that I can be, but I'm going to be anyway. And I'm willing, and I heard it the other day, maybe you've heard me say it because it's brand new for me. The proper use of my willpower is to be willing to be willing. It's just like so gentle for us.
But so hard.
Well, maybe, or maybe it's not so hard, it's impossible.
Ah.
I wonder what powerless means.
Yeah, but certainly it puts willpower in a different light.
Especially for the perfectionists. I think it kind of releases them from this death grip of achieving the absolute. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a great conversation. Thank you so much for raising the issue.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a sponsee that is just finishing doing an AWOL.
Yes.
And now AWOLs are great for somebody that's never had an introduction to the steps.
Yes, I agree.
So my question to her was, okay, so now that you're finishing the AWOL, how are you going to stay immersed in this process, in this step work? She goes, well, I kind of want to take a break and blah, 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 which I don't necessarily agree with.
Well, no, it's totally wrong, of course. No, there's no there's no gray here. There's black and white.
Yeah.
Bill said at the end of step 9, read it, page 84. We're not cured. We have a daily reprieve, keeping in fit spiritual condition. And then he describes steps 10, 11, and 12.
And basically that's the ongoing process.
That's it.
So in our, like right now we talk daily. Well, no, actually we talk 4 times a week, but we can probably cut that down now. But I said to her, like, what's your suggestion going forward? Like, just do this 10, 11, 12, or start on something else? Like maybe.
Are you asking me a question?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Like what would your suggestion be to stay engaged? Like
It's
I was thinking,
it's not a suggestion, although the big book says it's a suggestion. It's a requirement. It says we're not cured of our unmanageability. That's my interpretation, unmanageability.
Okay.
We have a daily reprieve contingent on doing steps 10, 11, and 12 on a daily basis. Step 10,
Okay.
when I'm disturbed, spot check. Step 11, evening inventory, morning guidance. Step 12, living a life of principle, helping other people.
So then I guess just talk about that on our calls. Like,
Oh, I
how
see
was
what you're
that?
saying. Well, first,
Yeah.
check with her if she's willing to do that. I mean, willing to do 10, 11, and 12 on a daily basis, and if she even understands what that means. My suspicion is she doesn't.
I suspect so too. So I'm just not really sure, like, because like I don't want to talk about the weather. Like,
Well, so why don't you talk about steps 10, 11, and 12 and give her some assignments? Get her schooled in the practice of 10. Get her schooled in the practice of 11.
so
that
for
she
these
really
assignments,
understands what quiet time means. Most of the people in FA do not understand what quiet time means, even though the literature in FA is quite good about describing what quiet time means.
so speaking of that, like I've gone to some of your centering prayer
Yep.
things. That's quiet time. Like,
That's meditation. That's meditation and prayer and contemplation. It's a big wrap, right? My centering prayer is what you're talking about. It's a very broad, what I call intentional consciousness practice.
right. Still something that I spend a lot of time on the word, like on my word to get me back from spinning.
Yeah.
But like what you say, show up, what happens. It's not my doing. It's
Well, it sounds like this is an opportunity to ask her a question. Is she interested in having more information and exposure to step 10, step 11, and step 12? If she is, then give her assignments in the big book, one at a time. Step 10, step 11, step 12, and supplement it with having her watch or listen to one of my YouTubes on the explanation.
Okay. All right. And then, I mean, I guess if she's not interested in doing that, like, it's okay for me to say, well, I'm going to add some new sponsees that want to do the work, because I'm getting bored is what I'm getting. Like,
all right.
That sounds
What
bad.
does she? No, it doesn't. No, of course not. What is she talking about?
Mostly about her day and her grandkids.
So is that your role as sponsor?
Well, I've asked her what she wants in a sponsor.
No, you're the sponsor. No.
Okay.
You tell her what you are as a sponsor. If she wants what you have, you can sponsor her. She doesn't tell you what she wants. Sorry.
Yeah. I thought I heard you say that though once. Like, what do they want?
Well, that's so I can weed them
in a
out.
relationship.
That's so I can weed them out.
Oh, okay.
No, some man said to me after a couple of meetings, oh, I really want to be friends. I really want to hang out. And I said to him, I don't need any more friends and I don't hang out. I never heard from him again.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe that's just the conversation we're going to have now.
You can help her. You said she did an AWOL. It's really good. First time, second time, third time, even getting a perspective on the steps. But as you know, it doesn't go very deep. And so ask her if she wants to go through the steps or if she wants to have some deeper exposure to 10, 11, and 12, because that's what you'd like to help her with. But you're not one bit interested in being her friend, listening to her daily events.
Right.
You'll use your own words because you're probably nicer than I am.
Not really.
But it's so efficient to tell the truth and be direct. And most of the time I do it with kindness. Some of the times I slip off the edge.
It's easy to do.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, thank you.
No, see, again, that's what this conversation here in this monthly call is really all about, is helping people get a grip on how to really help people.
Mhm.
And we're not
Mhm.
helping them when we're pretend to be their friend or their therapist. We're not helping them. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
You bet.
Hi, Herb. Good to see you again. Good meeting. Looking forward to seeing you guys at the end of the month.
Yes.
Hey, I was listening to this stuff, and when you got 40 years or 45 years or 50 years of drinking, you got a few resentments along the way, which I never knew I had. And Herb is certainly the ES platform has helped me figure a lot of that out. In listening to this, I've got my first sponsee. And what we do there, just if I may add, is in these conversations, and thank you for this today, because I needed this for my sponsee and myself. I'm not going to co-sign my sponsee's BS. I'm not going to co-sign my own BS by listening to him. So I've been sponsoring this guy for about 2 months. He came into AA from a home because he was arrested, and he was a big guy, probably 3 times the size of me. And he was sweating, and I said, nobody's going to approach this guy, but I will. And I started talking to him. We've met a few times. He doesn't seem to want to get a big book or look at it. Every time we talk, I hear his story. He seems to be trying by going to meetings, different meetings that fit into his work schedule, because he works about 60 to 65 hours a week. I see his heart trying to go in that direction. We talk about his family and his wife and what he's doing in the steps, but he's not really doing step work that I can gather. I've met him.
How is he sober?
Yeah, says he is.
How long? Okay, that's
He's
good.
he's got about 90 days.
Oh, okay. So he's really brand new.
Yeah,
So
he's brand new.
how can you help him?
Well, I give what I talked to him about the emotional sobriety platform that I've learned.
Way too advanced for him.
Okay.
Go back to your beginning.
Yeah.
What will help him? He's got 90 days. He's not even clear thinking yet.
Well, exactly, because with my first 6 months in AA, Herb, I thought I was all good, but I wasn't, and I wanted everything to be right in my life, and it doesn't work that way.
Correct.
And I had to keep going back through the 12 steps.
But he doesn't want to. At this point, he doesn't want to do the big book or the steps.
I can't even get him. Well, he says he believes in God, but I can't even get him to walk through steps 1, 2, and 3.
Well, because he doesn't want to. What does he want to do?
I think he just likes going to meetings and maintaining where he's at, and little by little, trying to grow.
Absolutely. Reinforce that.
Mm-hmm.
And ask him to share with you what he heard and learned from in a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Tell him to take a pad and paper and make a note of a phrase or a word or a thought that came to him or an experience in the meeting, and that he can bring that to you, and he can talk about that.
I think that's awesome, because the Friday night speakers meeting of AA that I go to in Upland is a Pacific group meeting. It's been around 46 years. There's about 100 people there. It's down from 200 in the heyday before COVID, but we're back meeting live again. And the speakers come out from the big group, a lot of them. And these people know what they're talking about when it comes to AA and the 12 steps, for the most part.
Yeah, right.
So I think that's a good idea.
And does he believe in God?
He does.
Does he do any prayer?
He says he does.
So introduce him to the set-aside prayer. Those are just the only 2 things that he's ready for right now. He can tell you what he's hearing in a meeting, and you can introduce daily prayer of set-aside and explain what the purpose of it is, and give him the words and ask him if he's willing to pray it on a daily basis for a new experience.
Okay.
Yeah, but be patient. Give him another 3 to 6 months to really thaw out.
Yeah, I know I needed it. You know,
Well,
I
but you
didn't
don't
know.
have to, but you don't have to be patient with listening to his stories and say, we're not here to discuss your stories. We're here to discuss your perception and experience in the meetings.
Yeah, I know for myself, 18 months into AA is when I stumbled across Bill Wilson's letter.
Yeah.
And I went, well, that's it. That's my issue. I had no desire to drink.
Right.
It was an obsession of the mind, like Chuck C says.
Right.
So another note, if I may, for over 4 years now, I've been a mentor that our men's group church has called upon men to mentor our drug and alcohol home that we have a relationship with. There's about 35 guys that come in every other Sunday, and we meet with them for an hour. Now it's a scripture Bible study, but there's about 2 to 6 guys at every guy's table. There's about 8 of us. I've done pretty well with the ones that want to listen.
What's your question?
In explaining the emotional sobriety platform, which is
why would you do that in that context?
Well, I don't necessarily. I try to tie it in with scripture. Because what I found, let me run this by you.
I think you're trying to feed steak to babies that need pablum.
Well, that's what I was trying to do. So let me tell you what happened is about 1.5 years into the mentorship, the guys would come into the table after 30 days of blackout at the home. And some of these guys had resentments and anger oozing from their pores.
Mm-hmm.
And I told the leadership, I said, I can thump scripture to them all day long, but these guys don't want to hear it right now.
That's right.
I got to meet them where they're at.
That's right.
So that's when I started to use your ES platform.
I would rather you begin with steps 1, 2, and 3 from the big book.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, you're trying to feed people too much substance when they really need to just have a liquid diet. No pun intended.
No, I agree. That's why I'm asking the question. I go to you for the.
No, you use the term, and I learned it from Dr. Berger, and that is meet them where they're at.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, it's a brilliant term for all of us to learn. Meet them where they're at, not where they should be, not where you want them to be, not where they tell you they are. Because most people are clueless until they get a clue. And it took 18 months. It took 4 years for me.
Well, I'm still learning every day. Let me tell you.
I still do.
A daily reprieve. I got to stick to that daily reprieve,
That's right. No, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Hi, Herb. Thank you so much for doing this. I get so much out of it. My question is about step 2, and I hope I can describe it. When I first came into AA, and that was in 2008, the way I did step 2 was to write out what I wanted in a higher power, describing a higher power. Fast forward to now, and then of course with you, we would at some point, I've done the steps so many times, but we were talking about the relationship with the higher power. Right now, I for some reason am really reluctant to try to describe any of that. Like the longer I've been in AA, and the better, I guess, the relationship that I have with spirit, the harder it is to describe it. And I don't have anyone in step 2 right now, but the next time I take someone through the steps, I don't know how I'm going to do it because I'm afraid to ask them to put it in words. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Well, what are you asking them to put into words?
Well, yeah, good question. I used to ask them to describe what kind of higher power ideally they would like to have, and what kind of a relationship.
That's the end of steps 2 and 3, not the beginning. At the very beginning, I ask people to describe what they currently believe.
Oh, okay.
Not know, not understand, not want. What do they currently believe? So obviously they have to look in the dictionary to find out what belief means.
Right.
And even doing that, they probably won't get it very clearly, but it's a good start.
Mhm.
But that's where I ask people to start, is
Mhm.
what is it you currently believe? And if you don't believe, that's fine too, but just know that and put that in writing.
Okay. Okay. And then toward the end, do you ask it differently or you leave
I
it?
do.
Okay.
At the end of step 2, I ask them, well, what do you want and need as attributes and qualities? And at the end of step 3, or as part of the end process, I ask them, what relationship do you want or yearn for? You've heard me use that word.
Yeah.
That word is so powerful a word. What do you yearn for in a relationship? And they'll be prepared then to answer that.
Okay. That's helpful.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Yeah.
It's a slow, very slow process. If done the way I'm describing it, which I experienced when I was 10 years of sober. All right, third time going through the steps. So it's not like people get all of this all up front. They
Yeah.
get it when they get it. They get it when they get it.
Mhm.
And you feed it out in just little tiny digestible bits.
Yeah.
Not expecting them actually to get it. They're just moving forward anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's really helpful for them to see that they have a belief, and it may change. It may be they can have a different one, just starting to get that idea of separation from what their belief is.
Right at the beginning, somebody said it's about awakening. It's about becoming conscious. And that's exactly right there. Yes.
Mhm.
Becoming aware of what they're not aware of.
Yeah. Somebody, I don't know if it's you or somebody in one of my local meetings always says, a God as we don't understand him, as I don't understand. Is that you? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
That's-
because it's language that helps startle people.
Mhm.
Because they never heard it before. It's kind of like, what do you say? He's
Yeah.
misquoting. No, I'm not. I'm challenging you to challenge yourself as to the meaning of the words as we understand it. When we look at as I don't understand it, because there's nothing about God that I can understand.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what brings me back to my question, which was, am I asking a sponsee to write down something that I couldn't really answer either. I don't understand it, but
But it's not about you.
yeah.
It's about them becoming more and more progressively conscious.
Okay. Okay. So just to get someone started, you start there.
I do. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Hi, nice to see you. Nice to be here with everybody. I haven't been able to be at this meeting in a little while. I just want to say that I feel like it feels so good to be here and to hear all of this. And I wanted to ask you something, and then I wanted to say something. I learned a long time ago, I was taught, to really try not to judge meetings, because
It's very important, even though we all do it.
Right.
Very important to kind of stay detached.
Right. Because, and I got abstinent in 1988. So I've been to a lot of meetings because I was taught that we need meetings.
We absolutely need meetings. All of us. I go now, I've upped it to 2 a week.
Yeah. So I learned.
I did 1 a week, but I upped it because a lot of reasons.
Yeah. And I'm not saying this to preach in any way. I'm just saying this for
Oh,
myself.
I'm hearing it. It's a wonderful balancing conversation.
But I don't get a lot out of the meetings these days. But that's okay, because
you give a lot to the meeting.
Well, sometimes I do, but one of the meetings, yes, I do. And I really try to do what I saw other people do years ago, where they didn't really talk about themselves that much and their problems, which is I've done that a lot over the years, which has helped me tremendously.
Exactly.
But I sort of am able now, after these years and some maturity, some of the time to talk about how the steps work for me. But I don't always do that, because I still have issues that I work on that are hard. But one of a little pet peeve, and I say little because I don't care that much. But I'm curious if you have any thoughts on this. A very large OA meeting, it's got more than, with Zoom, it often has more than 200 people
Nice.
based in the Valley. And I don't know who started this, but they say, I'm a recovered compulsive overeater. They use the word recovered
Yes.
because they say in the big book that he talked about being recovered. Well, I grew up, it doesn't feel right to me to say I'm recovered.
All right. So now set aside your old ideas,
Right,
set aside your prejudice,
right.
and take a look at the title page of the big book. How many thousands of alcoholics recovered
Right.
from?
Well, that's right. So that's right. They base it on that.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering, do you subscribe to that way of thinking that I'm a recovered alcoholic?
100%.
You do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And in fact, when you go to page 84 at the end of step 9, it says, we enter the world of the spirit. We are placed in a position of neutrality.
Right.
What does that mean?
For me, I feel placed in a position of neutrality regarding food.
Yes.
But I feel like it's a little arrogant to say I'm recovered.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, you do what you need to do.
Yeah.
But apparently you are in a position of neutrality, meaning that you're not abusing food and you're not inclined to, because you're living behind a spiritual shield. I don't know what else you would call that, but recovered.
Okay. That's interesting. I guess. Okay. I'm hearing that. All right. Good. Thank you.
If you have my way of life document, and if you don't, go to my website in the weekly workshops and download it. In the step 10, it has a diagram that shows a triangle, body, mind, and will. And it shows what I mean by recovered. My mind has been given neutrality, therefore my body is not ingesting. But my will is unmanageable, not cured. So I have a daily reprieve. That's why I use it in step 10.
And do you have an opinion on people who say when they introduce themselves, I'm Laura, I'm a recovered compulsive overeater?
Well, if I was in a private conversation with them, I don't do anything public like that. I would say, why do you make yourself special or unique by giving yourself that adjective? Why do you do that?
Because this is like in the lore or whatever you call it, like popular belief. There's a bunch of people doing that now.
I understand, but why do that at a public meeting? Because you want to be unique, because you want to be different, because you want to make a philosophical statement.
Right.
I do judge it.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to discuss it with you.
I can explain it, and I know what my personal attitude is, but I never say anything but I'm Herb, I'm an alcoholic.
Right.
I don't say grateful alcoholic. I don't say Herb Kagan alcoholic. I don't say Herb K alcoholic. Keep it really simple. It's my culture. It's my decision. There is a group in our area that uses last name. It's okay. It's okay. There's a controversy in AA itself, has been for 180 years probably, but it doesn't matter. I've come to the conclusion. I really want it to be simple, anonymous, and as humble as I can be.
Well, I thanks. I like that. The other thing I wanted to, I don't know, it might be too unanswerable, but I'm just gonna ask it anyways. Unanswerable at this forum is, I'm in a situation with, it's business, but it started as a labor of love. So there's conflict in terms of
All
the
right,
business
so
part.
the question, please.
The question is, we practice love and tolerance.
Well, that's our goal, yes.
Right. And I, those two words struck me in this meeting earlier when, I go, oh, right. and when people don't live up to what they say they're going to do, and it recurs, and you go through all the feelings, and then you work the steps, and then you still get the feelings, I guess you just keep going.
Well,
keep practicing.
No, you challenge yourself. You have unenforceable rules. You have a script about how other people should behave.
Should be, right.
Yeah, well,
They,
get
they,
over it.
they should live up to what they say.
No,
right.
yeah, that's your script.
Right, right.
Yeah, is that your experience?
No.
Well, then drop the script. It's wrong.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. You don't get to script other people's lives.
Right.
Yeah.
Got it.
And I was quoting from Dr. Luskin's book, Forgive for Good, and he uses the term unenforceable rules. We all have stories. We all have shoulds. Now, the steps will release us from these rules, this story, and these shoulds over time.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you for the reminder.
No, but it's a great question, and it's very relevant here. I'm so glad that you asked it. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
You bet.
Hello, Herb. I heard you guys talking about me. Here I am, and I'm a relative newbie to this group. I'm a relative newbie
Did I
to this.
express your status accurately?
Well, no, that's what part of why I'm going to talk. I won't talk about a lot, but but it was very interesting, Herb, because you know, I'm let's see, 2 years into learning the all about the 12 steps, realizing I had an addiction. At 61, I discovered I was an alcoholic.
Oh, see, I never make that connection. Okay.
Right. And it was, you know, it's so funny because, you know, my higher power has a sense of humor, is very wily. And I sort of come into all this ass backwards as, as things go. And I'm going, oh, wait a minute. I've discovered I'm an alcoholic. Okay. And then I thought unmanageability, my selfishness, which was very clear, was my primary dilemma. And it is, I see that. And my alcoholism, my addictive behaviors around food also have those going on. So, but it's been so interesting, Herb. And as you mentioned earlier, and someone else, you've spoiled me. I am so fortunate for you and this group here and your sessions of learning to be my first experience with.
It's amazing.
My goodness, you know. And what's interesting, Herb, is that, you know, I come from a background of being a professional musician. Yeah. And there's a similar process in that, you know, for people getting into their passion about music, passion about like, wanting to be their best selves here, you know, to find, if you're able to start with the best teacher and to surround yourself with expert players.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness, because then you don't have to unlearn all these habits,
that's a good point.
You know, and misconceptions. And, you know, when I was first, I came to your, I guess it was your year-long July session, and I didn't have a sponsor. I thought, okay, I think I need a sponsor. And I thought, okay, I'll put it out there. I went down the list. There were 12 people who were in my time zone. And I thought, okay, here's how I'll do it. I want someone who knows Herb Kay's work. I want someone who I resonate with. I want someone who knows their stuff. I want big book focus. Like I had sort of my parameters. And I went through about, interestingly, and I don't know if this is helpful for sponsors, but I, you know, was interviewed by about 12 people before I finally came upon a sponsor who. I'm
so glad you're mentioning this in such detail, because this is exactly what this is about. So continue, please.
Yeah, and part of this is I'm sitting here in this group of experience and vulnerability, and wow, you know, it's like, oh, this is what I want to be able to go out and in whatever gifts I'm graced with being able to help people, because I'm only at the cusp of step 8. Yes. So I know I'm a lantern. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. But I'm still polishing my windows, you know. Right. And I'm going to keep polishing but it was so interesting. So back to how I found my sponsor. After part of it was I was far enough along that I had a relationship with my higher power, which word changes for me all the time. It's mystery, it's flow, it's higher power, it's God. And I'm okay to be fluid with it. Exactly. And I said, okay, whoever, whatever power this is that's greater than me, please show me, like, who's going to be my sponsor? Who's going to be best for my journey? And I went, as I said, through 12 different interviews, and I finished everyone on the list. I went, wow, there's a few possibilities, but I also, there's intuition that I believe we are graced with as well in this whole thing.
Right.
And okay, so no one yet. And then one day on one of your meetings, someone sent in the chat, Wendy, if you're looking for a sponsor, here, give me a call. Let's chat. And that was my sponsor. And it was just absolutely out of the blue. It wasn't on the sheet. And this person really didn't know whether she was going to sponsor. And wow, it is, you know, I hear that it's mysterious. You know, I know the word magic sometimes is a bit.
Yeah, mysterious is a good word, but and what you just experienced doesn't surprise me a bit.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, and just you know, for all of you sponsors, and I remember looking for you mentioning her but once, trust, because I have a bugaboo about trust with people, you know, in my past, and you gave a release one day, Herb, that trust is earned.
Yeah.
And when you said that, I thought, wow. And so, you know, I sort of tiptoed into this relationship with my sponsor, and there was vulnerability, there was listening, there was laughter, there was like, it was, I went, wow, am I ever graced? You know, I just felt just so blessed that I could find a fit, and humor was an important part for me. Joy, as I was trying to find, I'm still not settled in a meeting I've tried OA and AA meetings, and they haven't resonated yet with me. So my meetings are with you. And when it's time and right, I just put it out there to my higher power to show me, like, where a meeting might resonate for me, whenever. So I feel very supported. My sponsor is also my step guide. And it's just quite a journey. It is just quite a journey.
Well, I'm so glad that you plugged in and gave us that panoramic view of yours, because it was very helpful, especially in the discernment of the sponsor relationship as you went through it. Most people don't go through such a rigorous process, but the components of it were just right on the money. And the outcome is my experience, where I prayed for the step guide to show up in my life, and inevitably they did, in some very uncanny, unplanned way, like you're talking about.
Right. Well, that's great. And I think part of my past experience with, you know, various, like with music teachers and people who were not a right fit for me, when I found that, and I thought, I can have that same, you know, I don't know what's the word, not assurance.
I use the term resonance.
This seems right, and to try it, and resonates. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So thank you, Herb, and thank you, everyone. Oh, I'm loving just being here. So thank you.
Please join me. This is that prayer of St. Francis that we talked about. I modified it at the end. The end line talks about eternal life. I'm not one bit interested in that. I'm interested in this life. Please join me in this turning. Listen to the turning from self-centered to other-centered. Lord, make me a channel of your peace, that where there's hatred, I may bring love, that where there's wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there's discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light. I'm the lantern. That where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted. to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self-forgetting that one finds, it is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to life. Amen. Thanks, everybody.